Hey, everyone, I'm Minerva, and I'm here to share a story that turned my life upside down and taught me more about family than I ever wanted to learn. Last summer, my family decided I wasn't good enough to join them for my mom's 60th birthday party. Why? Because I'm a plumber. Just a lowly plumber, in their eyes, not fit for their polished guest list. But here's the real twist: I was the one paying for my brother Andrew's medical school tuition. Every textbook, every exam fee, every rent check for his upscale Chicago apartment. The same brother who was too embarrassed to have me around his new girlfriend and her high society parents. The same family who took my money without a second thought but couldn't bear to have me at their table. So, I made a choice that changed everything. Buckle up, because this one's a wild ride. It was a sticky July evening in Chicago, the kind where the humidity wraps around you like a damp towel. I'd just finished a brutal day at my plumbing business, Minerva's Pipeworks, wrestling with a clogged sewer line for a restaurant in Wicker Park. My hands were calloused, my coveralls streaked with grime, but there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing I'd saved the client's dinner service. As I locked up the shop, the neon sign above the door flickered, casting a soft blue glow across the parking lot. The air smelled of asphalt and distant lake water, a Chicago summer in full swing. I was exhausted but content, looking forward to a cold shower and maybe a beer at my favorite dive bar on Clark Street. I'd been helping Mom plan her 60th birthday bash for weeks, picking the venue, a chic rooftop in River North, suggesting caterers, even promising to bring my famous lemon tart that she always raved about. But when my phone buzzed and I saw Mom on the screen, a prickle of unease ran down my spine. "Minerva, honey," Mom's voice came through, sharp and hesitant, like she was stepping around broken glass. "We need to talk about my birthday party." I leaned against my beat-up Ford truck, wiping sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. "Sure, Mom. What's the plan? You decide on the cake yet?" "I was thinking chocolate with that raspberry filling you love." A pause. Too long. My stomach twisted, the kind of knot you get when you know bad news is coming. "Well," she said, her words slow, deliberate, like she was reading a script she didn't want to deliver. "We think, maybe it's best if you don't come this year." The words hit like a burst pipe, sudden and messy. I froze, my keys dangling in my hand, the humid air suddenly feeling heavier. "What?" "Mom, it's your 60th birthday. I've been helping you plan this for months. I'm bringing the damn tart." She sighed, that heavy, practice sigh she used when she was about to feed me a line. "It's just Andrew's bringing his girlfriend, Olivia, and her parents. They're, important people. Doctors, lawyers, the kind who summer in the Hamptons. We just want to keep things refined." Refined. The word sliced through me, sharp and cold. I gripped the phone tighter, my voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. "Refined? So, what, because I fix pipes for a living, I'm not good enough to celebrate your birthday with you? With my own family?" "Minerva, don't make this about you," she said, her tone snapping into that motherly sharpness she'd perfected over years. "It's about Andrew. He's trying to make a good impression. Olivia's family is particular." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed in the empty parking lot. "Particular. Right. You mean they're too good for your plumber daughter? The one who's been paying Andrew's way through med school so he can play future doctor with his fancy girlfriend." "Minerva, please," she said, softer now, trying to smooth over the jagged edges of her words. "It's just one party. We'll do something with you later. A family dinner, maybe, just us." I shook my head, though she couldn't see it, my chest tightening with a mix of anger and hurt. A family dinner. After I've spent years making sure Andrew never had to worry about a single bill. Years of double shifts, skipped vacations, pouring every spare dollar into his education. And now I'm not welcome at your birthday because I don't wear a suit? My voice cracked, betraying the pain I was trying to bury. "It's not like that," she said quickly, but the lie hung heavy in her words. We just want everything to go smoothly for Andrew. Smoothly, I repeated, my voice low, almost a growl. So, it's not about me being family. It's about making sure Andrew doesn't have to explain his blue-collar sister to his girlfriend's parents. She didn't respond. That silence was louder than any excuse she could have made. I hung up, my hands trembling as I slid into my truck. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the dashboard, the hum of the city fading into a dull roar in my ears. One party. One stupid party. After years of being the backbone for Andrew's dreams, of making sure he had everything he needed to become the doctor he so desperately wanted to be. And now, I wasn't good enough to sit at my own mother's table. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed again. A text from my cousin, Rachel. Minerva, you need to know something. I overheard Andrew and Mom talking at the house yesterday. Andrew said he didn't want you at the party because you'd make him look working class in front of Olivia's parents. He literally said, I can't have them thinking we're that kind of family. I read the message 3 times, each word sinking deeper into my chest like a lead weight. My own brother. The kid I'd stayed up late helping with algebra homework in high school, the one I'd driven 4 hours to his college interviews when Mom and Dad were too busy, the one whose tuition I'd covered without a second thought since he started med school at Northwestern. He was ashamed of me. Ashamed of the work I did, the life I'd built with my own hands, the business I'd grown from a one-woman operation to a thriving shop with 6 employees. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone out the window, but instead, I just sat there, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. Looking back, the signs were there, scattered across years like leaks I'd ignored until they became a flood. I remembered the first time it stung, back when Andrew was a freshman in college. He'd thrown a big party for his new friends at his dorm, some networking thing for pre-med students. I only found out because I saw a photo on Instagram, him grinning with a beer, surrounded by polished kids in button-downs, captioned, celebrating with the best. I'd called to ask why I wasn't invited, thinking maybe he'd just forgotten. Oh, it was last minute, he'd mumbled, his voice rushed. No big deal, just a small thing. I let it slide, telling myself he was just caught up in his new world. Then there was the time I visited him at Northwestern. I was in Evanston for a job, fixing a busted water main at a coffee shop, and thought I'd surprise him with lunch. I showed up at his dorm in my work boots and coveralls, my toolbox slung over my shoulder. When he saw me walking across the quad, his eyes darted around like he was scanning for witnesses. He met me at the door, barely letting me inside, and rushed through small talk like he couldn't wait to get rid of me. Got a study group, he said, glancing at his phone. Maybe next time. I'd driven away feeling like an intruder, convincing myself he was just stressed. But it wasn't stress. It was shame. And the introductions, God, the introductions. Whenever I ran into his friends, he never said, "This is my sister, Minerva." It was always, "Oh, this is family." Like my job, my life, was something to keep vague, something to brush under the rug. I'd told myself it wasn't intentional, that he was just distracted, caught up in his ambitious world of med school and networking. But Rachel's text tore that illusion apart. Andrew had been ashamed of me for years, and I'd been too blind, or too stubborn, to face it. The day of Mom's birthday arrived, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone. I tried to keep busy, repaired a leaky faucet in my apartment, grabbed a burger and a coffee at a diner on Clark Street, called my friend Jess to vent, but the ache in my chest was relentless. It wasn't just about missing the party. It was the realization that my family, the people I'd poured everything into, saw me as less than. That evening, against every ounce of my better judgment, I opened Instagram. There they were, Mom in a glittering emerald dress, Dad in a tailored suit, Andrew and Olivia looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine, her parents all smiles, the rooftop venue glowing with string lights and clinking glasses. A perfect family portrait. Except I wasn't in it. I wasn't anywhere. That was the moment something snapped. If I wasn't good enough to celebrate my mom's birthday with them, my money wasn't good enough to keep Andrew in med school. I didn't sleep much that night, my mind churning with memories of late-night shifts, of skipping trips to save for Andrew's tuition, of the pride I'd swallowed every time he brushed me off. By morning, I felt lighter, not relieved, but clear, like I'd finally seen the truth I'd been avoiding for years. I made my coffee, sat at my kitchen table in my small Logan Square apartment, and opened my laptop. The university's payment portal was a familiar sight. I'd logged in every semester to cover Andrew's tuition. Balance, $28,000. Due in 10 days. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, my heart pounding but steady. I clicked Remove Payment Method. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure? This action cannot be undone. I clicked yes, and the screen refreshed. Done. My phone started buzzing before I'd even closed my laptop. Mom, Linda. I let it go to voicemail. Then Andrew called. Then Mom again. By the 7th call, I sighed and picked up, bracing myself for the storm. Minerva, what the hell is going on? Mom's voice was sharp, like I'd just committed a felony. Andrew got an email saying his tuition payment was declined. Tell me this isn't true. It's true, I said, stirring my coffee, keeping my voice calm but firm. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Minerva, how could you do this to your brother? He's worked so hard to get where he is. He's so close to becoming a doctor. I laughed, a short, bitter sound that surprised even me. Worked so hard? That's rich, Mom. Where was all this concern when Andrew decided I was too embarrassing to sit at your birthday party? Where were you when he told you to uninvite me so he could impress Olivia's parents? He was just trying to make a good impression, she said, her voice softening into that guilt-tripping tone she'd perfected. He's young, Minerva. He didn't mean it like that. He's 25, Mom, I shot back, my grip tightening on my mug. Old enough to know exactly what he's doing. Old enough to decide his sister's not worth acknowledging because she fixes pipes for a living. Minerva, please, she said, her voice trembling now, like she was on the verge of tears. Family makes sacrifices. You promised to support him through school. No, I corrected, my voice steady, though my heart was racing. I promised to help my brother, not someone who treats me like I'm invisible. I'm done, Mom. Find someone else to foot the bill. Minerva, you can't. I hung up, my pulse hammering but my resolve unshaken. I sat there for a moment, staring at the steam rising from my coffee, waiting for guilt to creep in. It didn't. Instead, I felt a strange, unfamiliar freedom, like I'd finally set down a weight I'd been carrying for years. I'd spent so long being the dependable one, the one who never said no, the one who made sure Andrew's dreams came true while mine took a backseat. But not anymore. The calls didn't stop. Dad, Paul, was next, his deep voice rumbling through the phone. Minerva, this is going too far. He's your brother. You can't just pull the rug out from under him. Then Aunt Susan, I never thought you'd be so heartless, Minerva. Uncle Mark, it's just money. You're doing well enough, aren't you? Don't be petty. Even a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, Jenny, texted, really, Minerva? You're going to ruin Andrew's future over a party? It was almost comical, how quickly they rallied behind him. Not one of them had called after I was uninvited from Mom's birthday. Not one asked how I was holding up, how it felt to be erased from my own family. But the second Andrew's tuition was on the line, I was the villain. Then Andrew took it to social media. I started noticing it a few days later, vague, melodramatic posts that stopped just short of naming me. Some people care more about their pride than their family. So disappointing. I always believed in supporting my siblings, but I guess not everyone feels the same. The comments poured in from his med school friends, his classmates, even people I vaguely knew from high school. You don't deserve this, Andrew. Stay strong, man. Some people are just selfish. My stomach churned as I scrolled through, each word twisting the knife deeper. He painted himself as the victim, and me as the heartless monster, all without ever mentioning my name. It didn't stop there. The judgment started creeping into my work. Clients I'd known for years began giving me side eyes at the shop. Mrs. Larson, a regular who'd been with me since I started Pipeworks, shook her head as I fixed her water heater one muggy afternoon. "I didn't think you were the type to abandon your own brother, Minerva," she said, her voice dripping with disapproval, like I'd betrayed some sacred code. I forced a tight smile, gripping my wrench a little harder. "Guess it depends on which version of the story you heard, Mrs. Larson." She didn't respond, just pursed her lips and looked away, like I was the one who needed to explain myself. That was when I knew I couldn't let Andrew rewrite my story any longer. I didn't call ahead. I didn't warn him. I drove straight to his apartment in Lincoln Park, my blood boiling but my mind razor-sharp. The building was one of those sleek, modern complexes, all glass and steel, paid for with my money. When he opened the door, his smug expression faltered for a split second before he masked it with a cool, "Minerva. What's this about?" I pushed past him into the apartment, the air-conditioned chill a stark contrast to the humid streets outside. I held up my phone, his latest post glowing on the screen. "This," I said, my voice low and steady. "You're out here playing the victim while I've been paying for your entire life. You don't get to do that." He crossed his arms, his lips curling into a smirk. "I'm just telling the truth. You bailed on me." "The truth?" I stepped closer, my voice sharp but controlled. "The truth is I paid your tuition for years while you acted like I was nothing. The truth is you were too ashamed to have your plumber sister at Mom's birthday because you didn't want Olivia's parents to know we're not some polished, upper-class family." His smirk wavered, but he doubled down, his voice rising. "You're blowing this out of proportion. It was one party." "One party," I repeated, my voice cold. "After years of me covering your tuition, your rent, your textbooks. Years of me working weekends, skipping vacations, making sure you had everything you needed to become a doctor. And you couldn't even give me a seat at the table." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I didn't give him the chance to recover. "Keep playing your little game, Andrew," I said, turning toward the door. "But when it all falls apart, don't expect me to pick up the pieces." I walked out, leaving him standing there, his smugness replaced by something that looked a lot like panic. And fall apart it did. Andrew's carefully curated world started crumbling faster than a rusted pipe. It began with a message, anonymous, probably from Rachel, sent to Olivia's inbox late one night. "Did you know Andrew's sister has been paying his med school tuition?" Olivia didn't believe it at first. Andrew had always talked about his supportive family, implying his parents were funding his education, that they were a comfortable, middle-class unit. But the message nagged at her, a splinter she couldn't ignore. So, she started digging. She called the university's financial office, posing as Andrew's assistant. It took 3 transfers and some creative fibbing, but she finally got through to the right department. The answer was clear: every payment for Andrew's medical school, every single one, had come from me, Minerva Bennett. No contributions from Mom or Dad. No pending payments for the next semester. Just a history of my name, my bank account, keeping Andrew afloat. When Andrew showed up at Olivia's apartment that night, expecting their usual wine and dinner date, she was waiting with a different kind of conversation. "Why didn't you tell me your sister was paying for your school?" she asked, her voice cold, arms crossed, standing in the doorway of her sleek Gold Coast condo. Andrew froze, his usual charm failing him. "It's not. I mean, my parents helped too." "Really?" Olivia's eyes narrowed, her tone cutting through his stammering. "Because the university said it was all Minerva. You let me believe your family had it together, but it was your sister you didn't even invite to your mom's birthday." "It's not like that," Andrew tried, his voice desperate now. "I just didn't want you to think I was some charity case." Olivia let out a humorless laugh. "Don't give me that. You had no problem using Minerva as a walking ATM. And now that she's finally stopped funding your life, you're out here trying to ruin her reputation. She stepped back, pointing to the door. You need to go. Andrew stood there, stunned, waiting for her to change her mind. She didn't. The door closed behind him, and for the first time, he realized he'd lost more than just my money. The next morning, he woke to an email from the university, final notice, tuition payment overdue. Failure to pay within 48 hours will result in unenrollment. His heart raced as he logged into the student portal, staring at the $28,000 balance. No pending payments, no extensions. He scrambled to apply for loans, filling out form after form, but with our parents' bad credit and his own lack of income, every application came back denied. He called Olivia, hoping she'd offer support, maybe even a loan. Voicemail. He tried me. User has blocked you. Desperate, Andrew did what he always did when backed into a corner, he lashed out. I was in the middle of a staff meeting at Pipeworks, going over new client contracts for a big condo project in the Loop, when the front door slammed open, rattling the glass so hard I thought it might shatter. Every head turned, and there he was, Andrew, hair a mess, eyes wild, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His face was red with fury, his breath heaving like he'd sprinted across town. You ruined my life, he shouted, storming toward me, his voice echoing through the shop. My employees froze, tools in hand, and a couple of clients in the waiting area shifted uncomfortably, their coffee cups paused mid-sip. I set my clipboard down, keeping my voice even despite the adrenaline surging through me. No, Andrew. I stopped paying for it. You ruined it yourself. He stepped closer, his face inches from mine, his voice shaking with rage. You abandoned me. Your own brother. How could you do this? I crossed my arms, leaning against my desk, refusing to let him rattle me. Funny, I don't remember you calling me your sister when you told Mom to keep me away from your girlfriend's family. Or when you lied to Olivia about who was paying for your school. His jaw clenched, but he didn't back down. You're selfish, he spat, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. You only care about yourself. You're not who everyone thinks you are. The room went silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a bad smell. But no one jumped to his defense. No one nodded in agreement. Instead, my senior tech, Jake, stepped forward, his voice calm but firm, his 6-foot frame imposing enough to make Andrew pause. Sir, you need to leave. This is a place of business. Andrew whirled on him, his eyes wild. I'm her brother. And this is her shop, Jake said, unfazed, crossing his arms. You're disrupting it. Andrew let out a frustrated, strangled sound, his eyes darting around for an ally. He found none. The clients in the waiting area looked away, my employees exchanged glances, and the air was thick with quiet disapproval. Security arrived minutes later, called by one of my techs without me saying a word. They escorted Andrew out as he shouted and cursed, his voice echoing down the street until it faded into the city noise. And just like that, he was gone. That night, my phone buzzed. Mom again. I sighed, knowing exactly what was coming, but I picked up anyway, leaning against my kitchen counter with a fresh mug of coffee. Minerva, we need to talk, she said, her voice tight, her usual gentle tone stretched thin like cheap plastic wrap. Andrew's a mess. He might have to drop out of med school. Maybe he should have thought about that before he erased me from the family, I said, keeping my tone steady, though my heart was pounding. Minerva, he's your brother, she pressed, her voice dropping into that motherly guilt trip mode that used to make me cave. Family helps each other. Family respects each other, I corrected, my grip tightening on my mug. I paid for his dream while he treated me like I was nothing. I paid his tuition, his rent, his textbooks, while he couldn't even give me a seat at your birthday. I needed you to stand up for me, Mom. But you didn't. So, no, I'm done. Minerva, please, she said, her voice trembling, almost breaking. He's young. He's scared. He needs you. No, Mom, I said, my voice firm, cutting through her pleas. I needed him to see me as a person, not a bank account. I needed you to see me. But you didn't. So, find another way. I hung up, my heart racing but my resolve unshaken. I stood there for a moment, staring at the city lights through my window, the distant hum of Chicago traffic a faint backdrop to the quiet in my apartment. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No calls, no texts, no voicemails trying to twist my emotions against me. Just silence. It was strange, this newfound peace, like the calm after a storm that had raged for years. A part of me kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to swoop in with another desperate plea, another guilt trip. But no one did. The silence was both liberating and unsettling, like stepping into a house you used to know but finding all the furniture rearranged. Rachel broke the silence a week later, calling during my lunch break as I sat outside Pipeworks with a coffee, the autumn chill starting to creep into the air. Hey, she said, her voice softer than usual, like she was testing the waters. Just checking in. How you holding up? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the gray Chicago sky, the first hints of fall turning the leaves on Ashland Avenue a muted gold. Honestly? Better than I thought. It's quiet. I figured, she said, a small laugh in her voice. But I thought you'd want to know what's going on with them. I didn't respond right away. Did I want to know? Did it even matter anymore? Rachel took my silence as permission to continue. Andrew moved back home with your parents, she said, her tone neutral, like she was reporting the weather. He's taking a break from med school. Says he's going to figure it out, but you know how he is. Your parents are struggling financially, big time. But they won't admit you were right. They're still blaming you for everything. I took a sip of my coffee, unsurprised, the bitterness of the brew matching the taste in my mouth. Sounds about right. They'll never change, Rachel said after a pause, her voice tinged with something like regret. I hope you know you did the right thing. Thanks, Rachel, I said, a small smile tugging at my lips. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. You got plans? Yeah, just a small thing with my folks, she said. You should come. Your family, too, you know. The offer warmed me more than the coffee in my hand. Maybe I will, I said, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of connection that didn't come with strings attached. As summer faded into fall, I threw myself into my business. Pipeworks was thriving, new clients rolling in from all over the city, a second location in the works in Andersonville, even a feature in a local trade magazine that called me Chicago's plumbing prodigy. For so long, I downplayed my success to avoid rocking the boat with my family. I'd hidden my pride, convinced myself it wasn't worth flaunting, that it would only make them feel smaller. But not anymore. I was done apologizing for the life I'd built with my own hands, for the business I'd grown from a single van and a toolbox to a shop with 6 employees and a reputation for getting the job done right. Right before Thanksgiving, Mom texted, "We miss you, Minerva. Let's talk." I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button, the city lights twinkling outside my window. A year ago, I'd have jumped at the chance, let guilt pull me back into their orbit, convinced myself I owed them one more chance. But now? I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and deleted the text. I had nothing left to say. For the first time in my life, I chose myself, and it felt damn good. Here's what I've learned through all this: family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. We're taught that blood is everything, that you stick by them no matter what, through every fight, every slight, every betrayal. But what happens when that loyalty is one-sided? When your sacrifices are expected but never appreciated? When you give everything and get nothing but judgment in return? Walking away doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love yourself enough to demand respect. My worth isn't tied to what I can give others, and neither is yours. You're not a bank account. You're not a doormat. You're not a stepping stone for someone else's dreams. You deserve to be seen, to be valued, even by the people who share your blood. So, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you walked away from someone who took you for granted, who saw you as a means to an end? Drop in the comments if this story hit home, or tell me your own story. I read every single one. If you're watching from Chicago, from the suburbs, or halfway across the world, let me know where you're at. And if this didn't vibe with you, tell me why. I can handle it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Trust me, we've got plenty more to share. Thanks for listening, and remember, choosing yourself is never the wrong choice.